To start off, we'll start off with data entry. So if you ever want to input a guest name, you can input it by clicking data entry. Alternatively, you can go to the guest page, and it's down the bottom right hand corner by clicking on the new guest. You can go to the companies page and click on new company, and or you can go to the agent page, and down the bottom right it's new agent. So if you're ever inputting data into the system, that is one way how you can do it. The alternative way how to do it is by actually making a booking, by going to the grid, by going up to the top right hand corner and clicking and dragging on the grid, and then down the bottom left hand corner, make new guest. You can input a new guest information from here, or you can search someone's name in the system from the search. On the front desk is list menu, and we click on that, and it basically brings up a list of all of the lists in the system. You can do advanced searches, and it'll bring up targeted results according to what you search for. For instance, your booking list, it'll bring up a list of all your bookings. A price list, all of your prices. Room list. Activity log brings up a log of everything that gets done in the system. You've got a guest, company and agent list, and you can do searches from there. And you've got your quotation list. The third button we've got is the finance menu, and you click on that, and it basically brings up a list of all of your invoices with the invoice list, and you can do searches from there if you choose to. And then you've got the age trial balance, so all the people that owe you money in the system over a 30 day, 60 day and 90 plus day periods, you can see that they owe you money, and you can run statements down the bottom here, and it will bring up invoices and statements for all of the people that owe you money, so you can send those invoices and or statements out to them. A second tab in the finance menu is the commissions. Now, Booking.com and Expedia Collect, they send bookings into your system, and they take a 15% commission, but you receive all the money from the guest, and they ask you for their commission at the end of the month. So this is basically a list of all of their commissions that you owe them, so you can do a cross-reference with the statement that they send you and marry up all of the payments to all of your guests. Then you've got your payments tab, which has got your payments list, and this brings up a list of all of the payments that get done in the system, and you can do searches from there. You've got your payment tax summary, your banking list. Now with your banking list, it brings up all the money that needs to get put into the bank each day, and you can reconcile that each day. And that's like your daily reconciliation, where it categorizes all the different payment types you receive each day, and it's good to do it at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, depending on how you want to reconcile it. And then you've got a full reconciliation if you choose to do more than a couple of days, and that saves it all in the system, and you can do a payment list search for your daily reconciliations, and you can see exactly what's happened each day and who paid and who didn't. You've got your credit list. This is all the people that are in credit in your system. And then you've got ledger, which basically if you have Xero accounting system, we can send all of your invoices from MotelMate into Xero. And we can set that up for you. Right, so that's the finance menu. The next button we've got is the check-in and check-out guest, as well as check availability. With check-in a guest, this brings up a list of all the guests that are checking in for that day. So if we click on it, it'll bring up a list of all the people that are checking in. You can click on check-in. Alternatively, if you click on the person, it will bring you to the booking, and this is the bookings page. You can also print a check-in slip from the check-in a guest page. Alternatively, you've got check out a guest. All of the guests that are checking out that day brings up a list of that, and you can check them out and or go to the bookings. And then you've got check availability down the bottom. There's a couple of ways how you can make a booking in the system, and at the very beginning I showed you that you could go to the grid and you can click and drag on the grid and make a booking that way. The other way how to do it is using the check availability button. So when you click on it, you choose your date that your guest wants to check in. So let's choose something in the future. Let's say the 8th of May to the 9th of May, and go continue. It will then bring up a list of all of the rooms that are available on that date, and you just click on the room that you want and say yes please. It will then bring you to the booking page, the details booking page. So we've now chosen the room. Now we have to choose the guest, and you can either make a new guest by clicking down the bottom left hand corner, or you can search in the search bar up here, and we can make a new person by clicking new guest. So we'll choose test and choose one. Right. This is where you input all of the guest's information. It's good to get as much information as you can. Phone, email address, so you can send the invoices to them, their street address, etc. Country. You can also assign a company to a guest by choosing the company tab down here. That will allow you to be able to invoice the company as well as the guest, and it's good to categorize everything in your database. So down the bottom here we've got the number of guest nights, which you can change, the source of booking, where the person has come from, we've got the number of guests, and we've got the room rate. So you can put in your room rate in here, so we might say $100 for that room. We want to make the booking now, so we click make booking. It'll then ask for your initials, which you can put in the system. So in the activity log we can see exactly who made the booking and when it got made. So we're now on to the booking page, which I'll get into a little bit later. You can get to the booking page by either going to the grid and double clicking on your booking, and or going to the check-in page or checkout page, which you found on the front page. We have a calendar here, so if you have any things you want to put into your calendar, you can do it here. And then we've got group bookings, which I will get into at the end. It's basically if you want to make a quote for a guest, or you want to book multiple rooms for one guest, you can do that there. We'll get onto the second tab, which is the utilities. Now in the utilities you've got guest letter, company letter and booking letter. So if you ever want to send out email campaigns to all of your guests, you can do that here. For instance, all the people that stayed December last year, you've got a new deal this year and you want to get a list of all of the emails of all the people that stayed in the December time period. You can write a pre-organized letter and send it all to them. Now to tidy up your database, you can merge two guests and merge two companies. So for instance, if you've got 5 different Matts in the system and they're all the same person, you can actually merge them all together to make it a lot tidier and nicer to use. And then you've got the blank check-in form down here if you ever need to print that out before the guest arrives. Now the third tab is the reports tab, and we've got a service report. So this is basically your cleaning report, which we do a daily clean and a full clean, and it brings up a list of all of the rooms that do need to be cleaned, so you can send it to your cleaners and they know exactly what to do. We have the stats report, which is the government stats report, and you should receive an orange slip which gives you your GE number that basically sends in your occupancy to them each month, and you normally should do it before the 10th of each month for the previous month. So we've got the daily diary sheet here, and this basically shows you all the people checking in, all the people checking out, and all the people currently in the system. And you can use the toggle up here to choose your different dates. We've got the revenue comparison. So if you ever want to do a cross comparison of 3 different months from 3 different years or different months, you can do that here and it will bring up all of your information. So the next button is the sales item list, and this basically brings up a list of all of the things that you've sold in the system, being accommodation, being food, being laundry, or whatever it might be. And then you've got the sales item analysis, which basically categorizes everything via the sort menu, and it gives you nice reports. Again, we've got the today's ins and outs of what happens for the day, and down the bottom you've got occupancy by type, and that basically brings up a percentage basis of each month of your occupancy. So you can see what months you've been busy, and you can look at it on a year by year basis, what you did last year compared to what you did this year. You got your daily revenue report, and I'll just click on that and we'll just go graphical, and it basically brings up total accommodation revenue, units occupied, your occupancy and your RevPAR, and you can use the toggle up the right here to change the dates. Right, so we go on to the activity report. Now you can basically choose any date you choose to, or any date range. It will bring up a report of your occupancy, of your sources of all your bookings, the reasons for their travelling, the total amount invoiced, the total amount paid, and your occupancy. So it's a good report to kind of see exactly what's happening. You got your revenue projections, which shows you all of your forward projections for the next year coming and the current year, so you know exactly what's going to happen. You've got your annual stats report. Now you can choose your bookings, your guest nights, your guests, total amount of guests, your occupancy, and your invoices down the bottom. That dates back to 2013. you have your room stats report, which you choose graphical, and it gives you a breakdown of every single room, your occupancy, the total on nights, accommodation, your average days, guest nights, vacancies, accommodation revenue, commission, total revenue. If you click on the blue eye, it brings up all of those results. So if you want to know any information about your room, it's a great report to have a look at. Then you have your daily stats report, and you might go current set. And it brings you a breakdown of every single day of what's happening, your occupancy rate, average rate, accommodation revenue, and once again by clicking on the blue eye it will bring up all of your results. Right, so we'll get on to the manager tab now, advanced options down the bottom here, and this is all of the stuff where you need to input, so you probably need to come back to it at a later stage to input all this information. So for instance, we've got your address. If you put in your address here, your email address, website, motel group if you belong to one, or hotel group, your phone, fax, GST number, bank accounts, name and number, and the government reg number as we briefly talked about before. You can also change the pictures and logos in here by clicking on the pluses and then clicking adding file and choosing from your database or your hard drive. Right, so we get on to the seasons. Now we can cater for up to 3 different seasons, or 3 different season types, being a high, medium and low. So for instance, in your January to February you might be not very busy, so you might be charging a cheaper price, so you'll have your low rate on. And in November, December, that's your high season, so you might want to be charging your maximum rates there. And it's as simple as clicking on it, choosing the date range, and then choosing the high, medium and low seasons from there. It defaults as the high season. And then we get on to the next button down the left hand column, which is room setup. If you click on each room, you can choose the room type that it is in here. You can choose the grid order below it. You can write a description that will come up on the grid if you hover over the room, over a booking. And then you've got your prices of your high, medium and low season, your room rates, and your extra person rate. On this column you've got the number of beds in each room, the room rate based on how many people, the max capacity of the room, and the minimum night stays. All key information that we need for each room type. We also have what's in each room, and you can click on each of these options that apply to the room, and it will come up when you hover over a booking on your grid. If you ever want to add a new room, you can click on this new room button up the top here, and it will create a new room. And it's the same for duplicating a room. You select the room and it'll come up in yellow and it duplicates the information below. Right, so we'll get on to the finance setup. If you have any chargeable items that you want to sell to your guests, you do it here by clicking on the new item. So for the example, we will choose a cooked breakfast and we'll give it a unique item ID of CB, and we might say cooked breakfast with the tax code A, in which we'll change that to 15%. we'll have a sell price of $20 and choose a category of food and just input that information from there. You can also select that by clicking all or clicking on the actual category, and it'll bring up a list of everything in that category. Now we'll get onto this a little bit later, because on the booking page you can actually add all of these charges to people's rooms, but we'll get into that a bit later. We also do packages. So for instance, if you have a Valentine's package, you can actually click new item here, choose a Valentine's package, choose the flowers, choose the chocolates, choose all of your sellable items, and you can go from there. And then you can go on to loan items. So if you loan out DVDs or hair dryers, you can input the information in here and loan it out to your guests according to the room. Lastly, we've got the surcharges. If you want to charge your guests credit card transaction surcharge fees, you can do this here just by clicking new item, putting a unique code in there, choosing description being surcharges, Visa or MasterCard, putting in the tax code, and then putting in the percentage that you want to charge them according to their booking. Accounting systems, we can connect up to Xero. We can import all of the invoices into your Xero system just by selecting Xero and following a step-by-step tutorial of how to set that up. Tax codes, I will put in the correct tax code in here of 15%. Now we get on to the policies. We have our cancellation policy, the sign-in form terms, and the quotation terms and conditions. Now you can click and amend any of these by clicking in there and typing what you need to type in there and then deleting it as you choose. Now the next thing is the room service tasks, and as I briefly touched on before, you've got a daily service task and a full service task. You can basically click and amend by clicking in any of these items and typing in what you'd like your cleaners to do, so they know exactly what to do according to the room service tasks. Now we also cater for, if you have lots of staff, you can have your own user logins where they get their own password and username, and they can have different administration rights and do different things on the system. So we offer that functionality. It's also good for logging. For the activity log, we know exactly who's done what and when. So we get onto the options setup. Now we can connect to phone PABXs, and we can record all of the phone calls into the system and charge your guests according to the rates. So we can set up direct IP PABXs and USB to serial or serial port PABXs. Now next we can link up to a point of sale system called MenuMate. So if you have a restaurant or a cafe out the front, they can charge all of their meals or drinks onto their room. We also connect up to Kaba locking system, so you can use key cards for people to open their rooms. We have a text messaging service through SMS Global. You can basically type a message in here and it will send to all of your guests maybe 2 days before arrival, just giving them a reminder saying that you've got a room available for the 5th of November, we can't wait to see you. And then we've got our mail settings, which will set you up with Skag Mail. We can also set you up with your Outlook if you choose. So all of your emails, being invoices, being quotes, and confirmation emails, will all be sent through either Skagmail or your Outlook down the bottom. Touching on that, we've got the mail merge setup as the next option. So you're going to have to come in here and you're going to have to write out all of your pre-organized emails to your guests. For instance, this is a guest confirmation, so you might say hello, and then down the right hand side you've got all pre-designated information according to your bookings. So you say hello, first name, space, family name, return. This is a guest confirmation for the booking date in to booking date out, and you might say the total cost. If you look down the right hand side, you can find all of the information according to the booking, and you can send that to your guests. And that's the same for companies, agents, groups, follow-up letters, and in your invoice letter. We also offer the service of TrafficMate, and that's the guest internet monitoring system where we send Wi-Fi to your guests and allow them to get access to your internet, and you can charge them from there. That's TrafficMate. Then we've got managed units, which if each room was owned by an owner, you can set up all the information in here according to your owner invoices. And then we've got web services, which is the last button in the list, and that basically allows you to sign up to a channel manager, being SiteMinder, being Star, Seacom, Wellman, Useros, Mitchacorp, Need It Now, Book It, etc. You can sell your rooms online to many different websites, for instance booking.com, Expedia, the list goes on, and it makes your availability for your rooms a lot better and you make a lot more sales. With the top tab up here, so there's the home button, which brings you to the home page, and you've got your guests. Now the guest companies and agents have the same sort of layout. You've got your general information in here, you've got the history tab, which brings up a list of all of your bookings and cancellations, and you can actually go to those bookings by clicking on the blue eye. You've got your finance, which brings up a list of all of your invoices, so if they owe you money then you can find the invoices from here. The contact log if you choose to contact your guest, list of agents which the guest may use, and a list of all of the quotes which you've given to your guest. Now you can also use the right hand side to search for any of your guests, and you just type in the information here and it brings up a list of all of the people that has guest in their name. But you can also assign a company ID to your guest, which we'll get into a little bit later. As what I said before, the layout is the same for the guest companies and agents. As you can see, company, history, finance, contact log, quotes, and agents. The layout is the same. So we'll get into companies. When you input a new company by going down the bottom right hand corner, new company, you have to click on new company first, and you might type in Fonterra as the company name. And now with the agents and the companies, you have to put in a unique company or agent ID. So we might call it FON1. That has to be unique to every company. And then you put in the information as follows down there, and or their credit card information. And it will bring up a list of all of your guests associated to the company. To associate a guest to a company, what you need to do is go to the guest page, click on company ID, and it'll bring up a list of all of your companies. So we might choose Fonterra for. The next tab is the bookings, which we'll get into in a little bit. You've got your invoices, in which you can do a search as well using the quick search, using the person's name or the invoice number. And you can also pay the invoices here by putting in the information, the method type and the total amount from there. Now we'll quickly create an agent in the agent tab. We'll click new agent. Now, as I touched on before, there's Booking.com and Expedia and a range of different agents, all with different settings, but Booking.com and Expedia Collect are commission only. So I'll just set up Booking.com for you by clicking on new agent down the bottom right. Booking.com, we might call it BCOM. They have a 15% commission and they're commission only. So we've now set up an agent, so when we go into make a booking, we can assign an agent to it as well. We go to the grid and we click and drag, or we use the check availability button on the home page, front desk. We choose a guest as what we chose before, with Fonterra being the company. We put in the room rate of $100 and we go make new booking and put in my initials, which basically brings you onto the booking page. What we can go through here is down the right hand side it has set to pending, which you can set the room to pending. You can confirm the booking, which will bring up email with your pre-designated mail merge options according to what type of booking it is, and you can send that by clicking send as email and send the email on from there once the email address is put in. Once you've confirmed it, it'll ask you whether you want to check it in, and once it's checked in, you can get the option to check it out. We've also got print check-in slip. That basically brings up a check-in slip which you can print, and it brings up all the pre-designated information according to the booking and the guest. Right, now we've got show on grid. Now this is a great button if you're working in the future, for instance December next year, because it brings you exactly to when the booking is made and the booking dates, so you don't have to go on the grid and use the toggles. So you can also move the room into the temp room down the bottom here, and you can edit the room and the room dates just by clicking on it and choosing what room you want to move it to, date in, date out. And then you go pick in another guest if you want to choose another guest for the room. You can add another room. You can add a billing item, which we set up cooked breakfast before in the finance section. So you just click on cooked breakfast and it will bring up in your items to charge. Right, now you can also raise an invoice before the person is checked in by clicking on the blue eye. So if we click on the blue eye here and click yes please, right, which will bring up the invoice here. And if you want to get to that invoice, all you need to do is click on the blue eye again. If someone wants to pay for it, you can click on the blue eye and click on type, and then choose the payment type from here, and the amount will go in there and it will all balance. Now, as we chose a company, Fonterra, associated to our guest, we can also choose to send the invoice to Fonterra, which will change the information up here. So you can send to choose it to the company or the guest, and there's the options up the top here to print the invoice, send as email, or close the window. What we have next is we've got the payment tab here, which is another way in which you can put in the payments for the invoices just by selecting here and choosing the payment type. We can do split invoicing. If you have 8 different guests in one room and they all want a different invoice, you can actually create many different invoices associated to the guest. We've got the calls tab, which will show all of the calls that the person has made in the room. Got reminders if you want to remind yourself about anything about their guest and the booking. And then we've got the changes, which logs everything that gets done according to the booking, and loan items at the end. We can do split invoicing. If you have 8 different guests in one room and they all want a different invoice, you can actually create many different invoices associated to the guest. We've got the calls tab, which will show all of the calls that the person has made in the room. Got reminders if you want to remind yourself about anything about their guest and the booking. And then we've got the changes, which logs everything that gets done according to the booking, and loan items at the end. So we'll now go on to the agent invoice. You've got the commission tick box here, and you tick on that. This will affect the accommodation charge, and you go yes please. Then you choose who your agent is, so we choose booking.com, and we'll ask you if you want to allow this again. You say yes please. What you can see here, a new line item has come up here. We charge the room out at $100 and the quantity of 2, and it's now charged a fee of $30 that booking.com will take from their commission, and they'll ask for that at the end of each month. And you can look at that invoice by clicking on the blue eye up here, and we will tally up all of the commissions that you owe in the system in the commission list in the finance menu. The last thing that we're going to get into is group bookings. So if you ever want to make a group booking and quote, you do it here by clicking on group bookings. Click on make a quote, or click on list if you want to see a list of all of the quotes you have made, and you get brought to the booking page. You can either select from the list or you can make a new guest. We'll choose guest, invoice report again, go continue. It'll ask you the dates that you want your guest wants to stay for multiple rooms, and you choose a date and the number of nights. You might put in 3, and then go continue. And it now brings up a list of all the available rooms for that given date. So you can basically pick and choose by clicking on these boxes here what rooms they want to buy. You can choose the number of guests in here. You can choose the room rate, $100, $200, $150, $90. Then you go down the bottom here and click continue. Now it will now bring up with a box asking you if you want to put in a group name or a client ref. So we might put in client ref font 1, and we might put in a deposit of 10% and a bond of $500 and go continue. And it will then put all of your bookings on your grid for the 11th of June. It will bring up a quote of all of the rooms with the bond down the bottom and the 10% deposit required. You can then email this to your guest and get them to confirm that from there by clicking the email, sender's email. If you ever want to move around on the grid, you can click on the toggles up the top here. The little triangle means 1 week, the middle one means a month, and the big one means a year. Alternatively, you can use these red tabs down the bottom. You click and drag and it will bring you to future dates, and you can see all your different rooms by using the right hand side one, and you can go down and see your different rooms from there. So we can now see all of the bookings. You can click on them and it'll bring you directly into the booking page here. If you click on the blue eye here with the group ref of 1, it will bring you to the quote. You can also select all the people's names for all of the different rooms by clicking in the rooms and putting in the guest names here. Right, so that's the end of the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.